review is of the Peterbilt 359 tractor, and it's a pretty big box. It's a 1/25th scale model by Revell, and here are the dimensions. Here's a picture of the finished model from the side, and that's the other picture, and some more pictures over here. So let's have a look inside here. Looks like we have a lot of parts here. It looks like it's going to be a fairly big model. And look at all those tires. So let's look at these tires here. We have quite a few of them. We've got some reasonably good tread on there. And 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 tires. Let's look here at our chrome parts. So there we go, Peterbilt logo there, and here's our front grille. We've got here's our tank and our wheels. This must be our fuel tanks here on the side. And here are our exhaust stacks. And most of this is reasonably well painted. And molding quality is reasonable. So we might be able to keep most of that chrome. And here's our windshield. And other glass parts for the headlights. Over here it looks like we have our body. And that's jammed up in there. So here's our cab. This really is big. Nicely molded, good level of detail there. And here's the front. Also some nice detail. And here's our wheel wells. Looks like another tank here. And flaps for the back. Now we're going to have a look at these other sprues. So here we have, this is our chassis. Here's our rear suspension, and axles going on here, other suspension for the rear. This is going to be a very large model. And this looks like this is probably part of the cabin here. Insides of the doors, seats are going to go on there. Here's our drive shaft over here, and our rear axle with differential there as well. Your flaps for the back, some wheel parts here, and steering wheel. This is going to be a really big model. The enormous engine and transmission. Here's our radiator. There's small wheel parts here, and parts for the interior, including our steering column and stick shift here of the seats. Some more engine parts, belts, and so on. Here's our dashboard and more wheel parts. It really is a very large model. Here we have our decals, and those are nicely printed. And we're going to look here, some details about the actual truck. And there's the color code. So we start off with the chassis, put all the parts on there. Those look like those are our tanks. Next we build our axles with suspension. And we build our wheels with the tires on. And more suspension parts. That looks like for the front. We have the front wheels going on. Next we build the engine. There's a fair amount of detail for this engine. Engine is then mounted. Drive shaft is placed on the chassis, and we start with the cab. Interior glass goes on. That's then mounted. Decals go on there. And the cab is mounted to the chassis with some extra parts on here. Next we have our exhaust and flaps, and then radiator, and the front of the engine cover, and that looks like it can flip up and down. And then our lights and so on. Last few remaining parts here, flaps and parts for the body. Here's our painting and decal guide, and that all looks pretty good. So, good level of detail, some nice decals. It's a very large model. That'll be a great build.